This says live, but it's not doing anything. There we go. All right, we're 5 seconds in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Eating in April's. And today I decided to do a live stream because I am lazy and I don't want to do a whole video. But we are at the 5th of December, 2023, and I ran into one of the ladies who I adore very much. She works at Tula Taqueria. And she's almost always there when I go in. She's one of my favorite people. Hi, Cordelia. And she was asking me about cakes. And I did share a couple of recipes with her, but I realized that I do not have my pineapple upside down cake recipe up. And I am going to share that with you. I have get down off the countertop. Get down. I do have the ingredients on the list, and I'm going to show you the cookbook this is from. I call it Hollyhocks and Radishes. It's Mrs. Chard's Almanac Cookbook, Hollyhocks and Radishes. It is by Bonnie Stewart Mickelson. And I have used so many recipes from this cookbook. It's from 1989. So some of you would think of it as a vintage cookbook. This is a pineapple upside down cake with lemon sauce recipe. And I have never used the lemon sauce, so I am not going to share it. I've got you sitting on this counter today instead of the one across the way because I'm going to be moving around a little bit more. And I've got a couple of things out already, but I've really not measured anything. So buckle up. This video is going to take a while. Let's read the recipe first. Pineapple upside down cake. 1/4 cup butter, 1 cup brown sugar, pack it. Do yourself a favor, pack that brown sugar because it's sweeter if you do. 20-ounce can of sliced pineapple. I use pineapple chunks, and I do get it in juice instead of the heavy syrup. The cost for maraschino cherries, that's optional though. I never put them in. 3 eggs separated. That I went ahead and did, and I cannot keep the cat off them right now, so I've got my eggs over here. And then a cup of regular sugar goes into the cake mix. 1/2 cup reserved pineapple juice, 1/2 teaspoon vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon almond extract, which I never use, 1.5 cup sifted cake flour. Today, we're not using that. Let me show you what we're going to use today. This is my go-to flour. It is an all-purpose flour mix that is gluten-free, and you can use it measure for measure. When I'm making my buttermilk biscuits, I do have to put more liquid in. So as you're getting used to your gluten-free flour, pay attention to how it reacts to the recipe and absorbs the liquid. But for this recipe, I use it measure for measure. I buy this at Kroger, and it's a wheat flour replacement. It's got brown rice flour, tapioca starch, white rice flour, potato starch, sorghum flour, arrowroot starch, guar gum, sweet rice flour, and rice bran. That's what's in it. So if you are not supposed to have wheat, or if you're celiac intolerant, there you go. Put that right over here until we're ready for it. So that's the flour substitute that I'm using today. And then you use a teaspoon of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Are you ready? First off, let's heat the oven to 350 degrees. In the future, when I do videos, you may see me opening that cabinet and look. I make sure that my inhaler is not in there because I don't like it to be in the kitchen when the heat is going. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your butter. It calls for a heavy skillet, 9 to 10 inches. I just use this. If you have a cast iron skillet, you go right ahead and you use that. That's what my mother always used. I don't have one, and I'm not going to buy one because this works out perfectly for me. The recipe calls for putting the butter on the stovetop and melting it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pop it right in the oven. While that's getting ready, I'm going to get my brown sugar. You can use light brown sugar for this, but I like the way dark brown sugar tastes better. Once that butter melts, what you're going to do is you're going to press it into the pan. Press the sugar into the pan. If you're doing it on the stove top, just heat the sugar through for about a minute until it's a little bit melty. If you put this in the oven and pull it out, just pull it out of the oven, put that right on top. Okay, we've got our packed dark brown sugar, cup of it. And then we'll measure some other things while we're waiting. You separate your eggs because you whip the whites of the eggs up to make them fluffy and fold them into the mix. That is a lovely thing to do. First, we're going to get the pineapple juice. All right. Now, I don't know about you, but we do not have an electronic opening device because I don't use it. I use this bad boy right here. Do you hear that click? So you're going to open this up and you're going to drain all of the juice off of that pineapple. Do not get the pineapple in the heavy syrup. Get the pineapple in the juice because that juice is liquid gold for making your recipe. Okay. If you're going to use the maraschino cherries, you're probably going to use the, I'm going to put this cat away. Come here. You are being something else. You are just being something else. Nessa was my best little kitchen buddy. She would just get up on the perch and she would watch. She would never try to get on or anything. This one, on the other hand, this little measer, oh, Lord have mercy. She's got to be in the middle of everything. She's a good girl, though. I love her. All right. Now I'm clean again. Butter's still melting. So this juice is completely drained off of here. If you use the pineapple slices as opposed to the pineapple chunks, you can only put so many in the pan because the part of the purpose of the slices is to have a pretty shape, and then you put the maraschino cherries in the center. I use this whole can of pineapple and just spread it over top of the sugar mixture because I really like a lot of pineapple. Okay, so we're going to get a cup of regular sugar, and that is going to be combined with egg yolks in a mixing bowl. I find the recipes that I like best have two kinds of sugar, brown sugar and regular granulated sugar, which we also just call plain old white sugar. Difference between brown sugar and white sugar is brown sugar is white sugar that has molasses added to it. It's good stuff. If you have a stand mixer, that's fabulous. If you don't, a handheld mixer will get it. I'm going to show you my stand mixer. It's just a little one. We got it at Target, and this was $40. It doesn't go all the way down into the bottom of the bowl, so I have to pick the bowl up to agitate it. But this does a better job than just a regular mixer. You can make meringue in this. You just got to work with it. Now, first of all, this butter is ready. That take about 2 minutes. Not very long at all. So since I'm going to do this on top of the stove, since it's hot, I've got my cup of this sugar here. You just completely stir it in. This is like when you mix up your graham cracker crumbs with your butter, you've got to mix it all in to where it's completely incorporated. Because the butter melts so beautifully with the brown sugar to make the loveliest flavor that you ever had. This is the base of your cake. Now, a good cake recipe itself is very important. My mother would do this step, and then she would just pour cake mix over it. If that's what you want to do, don't invite me over to try any, first off. Secondly, it's not going to taste as good. But I do understand not everybody has the time to do this. I work about 20 hours a week right now, so I do have the time to do this. So what I'm doing, turn this to where you can see it. Just pack all this in. Now you're going to see me spread all this evenly. There should be no holes in it at all. And it should be the same amount of sugar in the entire bottom of the cake pan. So you don't want a bunch of sugar off to one side and then a little bit on the other. You want it to be nice and even so that each slice will have the same amount of sugar. So nobody gets jealous. I've never made the sauce that she called for because this is just perfectly sweet enough. It does not need a sauce, in my opinion. But if you get a copy of this cookbook, you go right ahead and you make that sauce and you let me know how you like it. Next, make sure one last time I've got, there was just a little bit of juice left. You want all the juice gone. Just going to spread this all around and then evenly distribute it all. Now, if you do want to use this with the maraschino cherries, you go right ahead. You just put however many cherries in there you want. And I do have some cherries in the house, actually, because I'm going to make my first fruit ambrosia. That is another dessert that my mother really loved. She loved a good fruit ambrosia. I never liked her fruit ambrosia, but we are going to see how we like the one that I make. Okay, so you see I've got this all throughout the cake. So next what we're going to do, we'll take those egg yolks. And the egg yolks are going to be mixed over here with our 1 cup of white sugar. Okay, so this is done. The oven is preheated. This goes in next. You beat this together until it's light, and then you put in your juice and your vanilla and the almond flavoring if you use it. Now, I have used it before, but it really didn't make that much of a difference in my opinion, so I don't use it. If you got some and you want to use it, you go right ahead. Okay. Just agitate a little bit on its own while I measure out. We need a 1/2 cup of juice. 1/2 cup. So juice is measured. You want to mix these yolks in real good with this. Once you put that juice in, it's going to be a little grainy, but that's okay. It'll all come together, I promise. It's mixed in real good. I'm pouring that juice. Let's get our vanilla ready. How much? Half teaspoon. I would like to have the blender going when I put in the vanilla. I'm going to have this well incorporated. And if you have to straight down the sides of the pan, that's okay. Cakes come together pretty quickly, but there's no need to rush it. Take all the time you need to get this cake perfect. That looks good to me. Next, we're going to put in the dry ingredients, and a lot of people will sift those ingredients separate. I never do, and I have never had a problem. So, cup and a half of flour, which means I got to rinse this out real quick. This is one of my husband's favorite cakes too. I like to eat it hot, fresh out of the oven. I'm not going to do that today though, because I had some chocolate at Anthony Thomas today. So no more dessert. And you can pop it in the microwave the next day if you want. Okay, so 1.5 cups. You know, I did just say that I don't sift the dry ingredients together. I do when I'm using cocoa powder. You will do yourself a favor and sift that cocoa powder in. Otherwise, it's going to be a bitch to blend. Okay, now we'll need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. This is a teaspoon, so I'm going to use 1/2 of that. There we go. And then 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now, I do give it a little stir, but I don't sift. See, it doesn't take long. That's that. Now, do yourself a favor, which I always say when I'm making a cake. Mix it up a little bit before you turn the machine on. Otherwise, you're going to get a cloud of flour come up in your face. This is coming together very quickly. We're about 20 minutes in, and that includes measuring. I think that's one reason why cakes are so popular. They come together so fast and they're so good. My friend who I was speaking with is one of the professionals who makes the miracle of one of my favorite restaurants, Tula Taqueria, happen. And they have a tres leches cake there that's very light. And as much as I love cake, Ted says to me, "Do you want a slice of cake?" And I'm like, "No. It's a good cake, but it's light. It's a light cake. I like a heavy cake. Loaded down with butter. I'm a butter cake girl." So if you want a light cake that will not hit your stomach heavy, get it at Tula Taqueria. Mix this a little bit more. Okay. The next part is going to surprise you. If you've made a lot of cakes, you've done this with a cake. We're going to beat up the egg whites separate and then fold them in. You don't make a meringue with these. You just beat them until they're stiff but not dry for this recipe. These are going to have to be washed off. If you're smart, whip them up before you get started. Make your life easier. Okay. This will come together very quickly. Okay. This is our last step before we put it in the oven. Can you believe it? The instructions say to bake for 40 to 45 minutes. I never time it. I just check it once it smells done. You insert a toothpick in the center when it comes out dry. It's done. You got to turn that cake out immediately when you're done though. You slice it and eat it. Together very quickly. So this is what this batter looks like right now. Very runny. It's good moist cake, but it's good thick cake too. Just posted on my Facebook wall the vanilla cake that I have that Lord Shadow likes the milk chocolate frosting on. That's another cake that you do the egg whites separate and you whip those up before you put them in. Just add some air to the cake, makes it a little bit lighter. We're good. We don't want a meringue. You know, it's still got to move, but So it still moves, but it's got a little bit of fluff to it. And there she goes right in there. I'm going to move this bad boy over here. And I will show you. Peek. While I'm doing this, just going to gently fold. See that? Gently fold. You're just incorporating it all together. You don't want to knock the air out of these egg whites, but you don't want to stand here for an hour either. So, and you're just going to do this until it's all incorporated. You're not going to use the mixer again. Now you can use any fruit on the bottom of this that you want. I think that stove cooked apples with walnuts would be great in this. Peaches, pears. I don't know about plums, but I do know that peaches go really, really well with brown sugar. There's just something very satisfying. Okay, so you have seen the process of folding. There's just something very satisfying about making a cake, especially on a cold day. You've got fresh fruit. You know, you can chop up fresh pineapple for this if you want to. Blueberries and strawberries might even be nice. I don't know. It would definitely change the consistency of the cake because berries create a different amount of juice, but I do know that apples are perfect for this because I've done it before. Almost getting there. I'm not going to keep you on here with me the whole time that I do this because it's going to take, it could be up to 45 minutes or longer. Give yourself 40 minutes to an hour to finish this. Once you pop it in the oven. The thing about oven times, each oven is different and your climate is going to be different and the temperature indoors are going to be different and the temperature outside, your altitude. So you've got to pay attention when you're making cakes so that you know when your cakes are done. Now this overflows the pan a little bit. So very gently, just go over all of it. Spread that bad boy around. Okay, so there's a little bit left in the pan. That's all right. That's all you have to do. So I'm going to pop this in the oven and I'm going to bake it until it's done. And if you have any questions, you can message me on here. All right, this has been Eating in April's. Take care.